with us today is Sri Lanka's internationally renowned designer Dinesh Chandrasena. Dinesh, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Could you tell me how you first got into designing?
I got into it quite by accident. I was always artistic, loved painting, loved charcoal drawing and all that. And my mom, she encouraged me to take part in Designer of the Year, which was in 1989. We were having a lot of conflicts in the country and the schools closed down. I was at Royal College and the school was closed, so I took part and I was first runner-up, which was quite a shock. I was 17 at the time. And then I thought, it was like an aha moment. I thought it might be nice to explore that. Continued, did my London A-levels, and then when it was time for college, my parents kind of sat me down and said, okay, if this is something you're serious about, maybe you should study and like get a degree in design, and that's basically how I got into it.
Were you always creative, or is it?
I think so. I think I was always into the arts in general. I love the ballet, I love the theatre. I'm a terrible actor, so I never tried it, but I love seeing great theatre. I love seeing beautiful dance productions. So always artistic, but I think more inclined towards painting and that sort of thing on my part.
You started out Claire's Collection, is that right?
Yes. As soon as I graduated, I did an internship, and I was at Calvin Klein. And as soon as that was over, Claire's kind of snapped me up, which was, again, I think in life things work out according to a higher plan, and I had no experience. I was just out of college, but I think Claire's kind of saw potential, and they hired me, and I was with them for 15 years.
So what's your specialty in designing?
I would think, well, having a design degree, I think part of our job is to be open to any sphere, and I've done a lot of freelance projects globally, but my forte, I think, is couture, which is very beautifully done, intricate, maybe more inclined towards almost elaborate, but with a great amount of taste. So it's almost evening inspired.
You've dressed many celebrities. What is that like, working with them?
Very exciting, because it was my initial understanding that the more successful people are, the nicer they are. And because unfortunately a lot of people think that being a diva is part and parcel of success, and it's actually the opposite. I think like I did Halle Berry's wedding dress. I designed for the movie Miss Congeniality, worked personally with Sandra Bullock. I did Dame Julie Andrews' wardrobe and Anne Hathaway for Princess Diaries. So like Dame Julie Andrews to me is iconic. Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, I mean, she's spectacular. And to have a woman like her being so gracious and so nice and so grounded, that's another aha moment where you realize success is not tantamount to tantrums and being a diva. It's actually the opposite. Because I have worked with some soap stars, I have worked with actresses who are maybe trying to get to that point, and they tend to be a little more difficult, whereas the bigger stars are absolute dreams to work with. Very gracious and very nice.
Is there someone you've always wanted to design a dress for?
I've always admired Queen Rania of Jordan. Carla Bruni Sarkozy, I think, is spectacular. I tend to veer towards these first ladies, but it's just, I think they mix fashion with also their own sense of style. So I think women like that are just fabulous.
What's more important, designing a dress for the pleasure of it or designing to sell?
I think designing to sell, because I'm one of those designers that I even tell students when I guest lecture, fashion is a business. And if you're going to be just an artist, more power to you. Become a museum curator. You know, design a beautiful dress, hang it up, look at it, fine. But as a fashion designer, it's an economy-based industry, and it's a business. And if you do beautiful clothes that nobody's buying, you're not a successful designer. So I tend to tell people, maybe you should be in an artistic field, as in you're working in an art gallery or you're a collector. But as a designer, you must make garments that sell. And that's the benchmark of success as a designer. It's not just creating beauty, but actually getting the financial remuneration for it.
So you have to be business savvy as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I'm more business savvy than artistic in that sense, because I keep pushing my students very much to always think sell. One of the first questions I ask when I do even a workshop is what turns the wheels of the fashion industry, and it's money. It's not creativity. We know, you and I both know so many creative people who never get the opportunity, and they're so talented, so creative, but they have no business sense. And then you have people who have great business sense, but might not be the best. They're so successful. So I think you have to be business savvy, and that's the key to success.
You work with George Hobeika now. You're in charge of business development in Asia. What does that entail?
It's basically, George is very successful in Europe, the Middle East, and he's got a strong following in the US. When we started collaborating, it was how do we utilize my skills, and he was ready to expand into Asia. So basically, I'm developing his business for this region with PR, with promotion, with trying to make sure that his label gets the attention it deserves, making sure the right celebrities, the right events are tied up with his label, and also showcasing the collections for buyers. So it's almost a point of like showcasing him to the Asian market. It's a very business-driven side of it, but I enjoy it because I trust in his product. I think his work is spectacularly creative, and it's wonderful for me to look at it from a different angle, as in here's a very talented man, let's showcase him and show Asia what he can offer.
Are there any promotions or events coming up?
We got 4 pages in the December L'Official, India, which was fantastic because that was a nice foray into the Indian market. We've dressed Jacqueline Fernandez at the Z Awards in Singapore. She was on the red carpet in George Hobeika Couture, and then we dressed Priyanka Chopra about 2 weeks ago for an event in Mumbai. We're planning a few more photo shoots. We're planning to actually shoot with an A-list actress, also promoting Sri Lanka at the same time. So ideally the location would be here. We also hope to participate in Mumbai Fashion Week, Delhi Fashion Week, and then start moving towards Singapore and Hong Kong.
What do you think about today's designers in Sri Lanka?
They are the future of our industry. They're very talented. I've had the privilege of working with some young, talented designers when I guest lecture. They're spectacular, and one thing that I notice is, apart from the fact that they're so creative as designers, they have a strong sense of bonding. They have a strong sense of helping each other out and being supportive of each other and the industry, which is very positive considering that the industry out there that I see in Sri Lanka is the antithesis of that. A lot of it is not geared towards helping each other. It's almost the opposite. So to see young designers who actually are educated in design, they have design degrees, and they're creative, but also they're in a position to be secure and confident where they don't feel the need to tear each other down. It's a wonderful future for the industry, very positive. A lot of the young designers now, we need to, as in you as the media and also us as maybe senior people who've been in the industry, need to create a platform for them. The fashion weeks are great, but I always say a fashion week success is the number of buyers that show up. And this might be something interesting for you also, is when you have a list of buyers, one of the key things that designers look into is your expendable income. So as a buyer, if you're coming in with $100,000, that's a buyer that you want to attract because that buyer has more money to spend. So it's not just having a mass of buyers ready to spend $1,000 each, but maybe having 3 buyers who have large pocketbooks and they're ready to write paper, and that makes the fashion week successful. So it's basically giving them the opportunity, giving them the platform, and I think another very important key factor is the mindset. To be able to understand that there's enough money to go around, there's enough success to go around, enough fame to go around. You don't need to be kind kind of insecure about it and you do your best, the only person you should compete with is yourself. And if you do your best and shine, you will make it internationally. That's something we should promote with our young designers.
So do you think they need to go to a design school, or can they just rely on their creativity?
I'm a firm believer in education, in anything you do. I think as a fashion, like I have a degree in design, and to be able to say something forcefully or with the knowledge to back it up, if you have a design degree, it always makes it more positive because you've studied the subject. And even things like color theory, which is one of the first classes you learn in fashion design, the history of costume. I mean, there's basic components that you learn which really enhances your ability to work as a designer. So I highly recommend in any profession, but for design particularly, that you do get a degree. You might be amazingly talented naturally, do it, but then get a degree on the side. I mean, you can always take evening classes, you can always take, you know, some sort of course where you keep your atelier and your workshop going, but you still take maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years off, depending on what your program is. And I mean, a BA, if you're really concentrating, should take you, you know, 2+ years. A master's a little bit after. So it's doable, and I think education is a must.
What have been some of your biggest challenges since you started your career?
Biggest challenge for me has been understanding, I think, human nature, because I've been through all the steps, the college student through to the new designer at a very successful company, through to, you know, 15 years at the same company, through to, you know, George Hobeika and joining his spectacular company. And each step has been a learning process where I think people you think are going to be very positive about it might not exactly be who they are. And I give everyone a clean slate. It might be naivete, but I'm actually the type of human being that I don't assume anyone is out there to be mean. And sometimes you get surprised. And I think a challenge has been actually understanding the intricacies of human nature, because as a job I've been very blessed. I've always had great support. With human nature, it's been a fabulous learning process. Everything's been a learning process and I have no negatives, but it's been a bit of a challenge coming to understand it.
How do you work? How do you balance your personal life and your career?
By keeping them very separate. I keep my personal life absolutely personal. I recommend that people keep it that way, that you don't do the whole socializing with the people you work. And it's great, you might go out for drinks a couple of times, but you don't do this whole I live, eat, breathe my job. And in the same token, I think certain aspects of your personal life need to be personal. That's why it's called personal. And it's also important that you find that time to keep aside for you to be you. Because sometimes with your job you have to be on. You have to maybe be in situations that you're not quite happy with. But then if you have your own me time, it balances off. And I always think that to be able to work successfully in an industry, you have to work with people that you might not like. And that's part of being a professional. Personally, you might not like it, but on a professional angle, if you have to work together, you smile vibrantly and you work. So it's a balance.
What are the trends we should look out for 2011?
A beautiful smile, which always helps. I think trends, well, for spring summer, like we did a lot of greige, we did a lot of champagne, we did a lot of ivories and lavenders, but then we went slightly darker. We went into like true summer colors. We did cerulean, we did some fuchsias, we did, I mean, there's a lot going on that you can choose from, but I think the key again is not to be just trend driven, but actually to understand what works for you. Because I think as most Sri Lankans, we have a spectacular skin color. And I think for beautiful dusky, tan skin, there's so many colors that you can wear. And for seasons like spring, summer, the basic rule is be bright. This is your chance to be vibrant. I think like key accessories are in, you know, beautiful bracelets, beautiful earrings, things like that. And less is more, always. Before you go out, just take a look, and if you kind of are questioning how you look, fix it. And just be positive about who you are and you will look fabulous. And I think it's about being appropriate where in the world we are. Weather appropriate. I see people running around Colombo in boots, which I find a little disturbing considering the fact that it is a humid climate. I see a lot of things that are not appropriate to maybe the weather or appropriate to our culture, because we also have to understand what sort of culture we're in, and there needs to be a level of respect. And you take all that and your own personal style, and then you draw from what the predictives and the runway shows tell you. Runway shows are always over the top, and we all water it down for the boutiques. So just take from there what works for you, and it's you who have to shine. You don't want a designer to shine. You want you to be the star. And as long as you have your own personal style and stick with it and you're confident and just be nice, it's always a good accessory.
Dinesh, thank you for joining us on newsnow.lk.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Fashionista, how do you